Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night throughout the globe. I'm Rizwan Akram here in Connecting the World show. And today I have very special guest, Inga from States. And Inga is an global educator, traveler, entrepreneur, connecting people, cultural diversity. And today we're going to discuss all these things in a phenomenal way because we have such amazing people from the world. So, Inga, welcome to Connecting the World show.
Thank you so much, Rizwan, for having me. It's quite an honor to be here today. Thank you so much.
Inga, first of all, I would like to ask you, how was your education? Like, how you got your education? Either you were a born teacher, traveler, entrepreneur. What was you when you were getting education?
Well, my education, traditionally, it's a very traditional education in terms of my undergraduate school, my graduate school, and now I'm actually in a doctoral program. So I'm going through traditional platforms, universities here in the US. But in terms of how did I come to be here and how did I choose these paths? Well, first of all, yes, I come from a family of educators. So my father is a PhD, a doctor in education. My aunts, my cousins, I have a large family of educators. So I guess maybe in some way that was in my blood. In terms of being a global educator, and in terms of my interest globally and promoting business and travel and entrepreneurship, I grew up with in a multicultural family. So at the time, my mother is from Germany and my father is American, which in 2020 may not seem that significant with how much people are traveling and things around the world. However, when I was a child, growing up in the 1970s, to have a mother from one country and from Germany and a father from America was very different. And so in that way, I grew up outside of Baltimore, Maryland, in the US, in a very small town. And we were kind of unique in that way that we spoke two different languages. We spoke German and English. I had half of my family living in Germany, my aunts and uncles and cousins, and the other half in the United States. So for that reason, at a very young age, I became very interested and just globally aware of different cultures and that there's beauty and uniqueness on both sides. I had one set of values and expectations and cultural things when I was with my German family in Germany, and a separate set when I was with my family in the US. So those backgrounds, not only starting as in a family of teachers, but growing up bilingually in a bicultural household, got me interested in global affairs, let's say. It doesn't answer your question though fully. Let me finish real quick about business, because how does that come in? Before I started my teaching career, I actually thought that I would have a bigger impact in the business world. So my undergraduate degree was in international business and philosophy, actually. But I did my business path for about 20 years, believe it or not. And through being a project manager, an entrepreneur, creating my own businesses, things along the way. And all of these businesses that I was working in were always international. They were always working to connect people around the world. After some time, I decided that I wanted to have a more direct impact, not through business, but face-to-face through education. So now I'm really focused on teaching globally, teaching English. I'm running a travel business to connect people around the world. So this is a little bit about my background and where I come from.
Inga, I would like to ask you that what do you think? What if the people ask, who is Inga? What do you like to ask, answer? Like, who is your personality best defining?
That's a great question. That's a tough question. It's always hard to answer those things about yourself. It's easier to answer it about someone else, isn't it? So if you would ask, who is Inge? I think that my students, when people see me or they describe me, I think that they would first of all think of me as a very positive person. I always look for opportunities to grow, to develop. I try to look at any type of an obstacle that we have, not as a disappointment, but as a challenge or as a redirection, that perhaps it's putting you in a path that you were not, in a different path where you are actually supposed to be. Also, I am extremely supportive and encouraging. So I think that, again, if I look at my children and my students, they see that if I recognize potential in you, sometimes I'm able to recognize potential that you don't see. And I work with you and push you and continue to stand by your side until you meet those dreams. So I am really a person who is looking to help make the world a better place through helping others to develop their greatest potential.
Okay, that's cool. Inga, as you belong to educators family, you have told earlier, I would like to ask you, what is the definition of a teacher?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm a teacher of English as a second language. So my students come from all around the world. So I have a class, I just finished teaching a class that had 14 different countries in my classroom. And
Wow.
so when I look at my role as a teacher, it is very different based upon what country you're coming from, really, because every country has a different expectation of what a teacher is and what a teacher should be and how a teacher should act, right? How a student-teacher relationship should be. The teacher either as is the classroom teacher-centered, focused on me, do I know all the answers? Or is it a student-centered classroom where I encourage you to grow and develop? So first of all, it's important to realize that my students come from all over and they have a variety of different ideas of what a good teacher is. From my perspective, I feel that a good teacher is someone who, again, realizes the potential in their students, that understands that they do not necessarily have all the answers, okay? That we are all students. We're all learning. I'm learning from my students as much as they're learning from me. A good teacher is someone who is encouraging and pushing their students. In my opinion, my classrooms are very student-centered. So I might have a curriculum or a syllabus that I'm following, but I don't necessarily prescribe it exactly until I see the classes that I have and I really get to see the strengths of each of my students. And then I tailor it to work to meet their needs. So in my opinion, a good teacher is someone who is student-centered, patient, understanding, open-minded, curious, interested to learn more, open to ideas.
Inga, that's amazing. I being a teacher and being a learner for all the time and learning. When there's a child at home, he used to ask hundreds and thousands of questions to his parents. What's this? What's that? How's that? Why it's happening? How is it happening? All these things. When such child go to school, we discourage questioning. We we force that student to listen the teacher. So either we can learn by listening or either we can learn by questioning.
Yes, it's very true. And again, different cultures have different ways of educating. So there are many cultures who are educating with the student simply listening to a lecture format and listening that the teacher is the one who has all the answers, and the student is just like a sponge to take everything that I say, right, as a teacher, to write it down, to memorize it, to read the book. Doesn't necessarily matter so much if they understand it, but it's that they remembered it. That is a style of teaching that is very, very prevalent in many countries around the world. And that's just a fact. That's how it is. In my classroom and in Western culture, oftentimes one skill that is very highly valued is what's called critical thinking. And critical thinking is a skill that in the Western education system we use to promote questioning. So in other words, it's asking why. So in my classrooms, if we're talking about your student, that you're talking about your child at home, and they're used to asking, why does this happen, or whatever, asking the parents. Well, what happens is that when they come into a more of a Western classroom, or I'm just going to talk about my classroom, they come into my classroom. If they ask me that question, first of all, they're allowed to ask me that question. That's the first thing. So I make sure that they feel comfortable enough knowing that they can ask me a question. Okay, that the education goes both ways. And secondly, when they do ask me the question, many times I turn it around and I ask them the same question.
Amazing.
Right? So they might ask me, Professor Urbancic, why is the sky blue? Can you tell me scientifically, why is the sky blue? And instead of me sitting, maybe I know why the sky is blue, maybe I don't know why the sky is blue. But the idea is that we're in the search of knowledge, right? We're trying to understand knowledge. So maybe a student has a question, they ask me that. And so maybe that becomes our topic. I say, you know what? That's a great question. Why do you think the sky is blue? And maybe we'll end up in a whole class discussion, and we'll pull up information online, and we'll find out. Maybe we'll do group work and get into groups, and some people can debate that the sky is blue, but other people might say the sky is actually red, and they can debate each other. So it could turn almost into a whole lesson just on the question that they asked me. And what this does is this helps to promote what we call critical thinking, or the generation of new ideas, new thoughts, new opinions. It lets the students understand that their opinion and their thought is valued and it's important in this global conversation. I want to know what they think, and I want to know how they think and how they're reasoning. So this is kind of an approach that I take in my classrooms, and a lot of Western classrooms are very similar in this way.
That's amazing, and I'm really inspired by the things you have done. Now I want to know, how can we take our teacher-centered classroom towards student-centered classroom? How can we tilt this attitude from teachers towards students?
Mm-hmm. This is not an easy task, because we're talking about generations and generations and generations of people and citizens in countries that have been educated in a traditional way, in a teacher-centered approach. So it's not something that we can just switch very quickly. However, I can tell you from my experience, I've been working quite a bit with English teachers from Saudi Arabia, and I know as well with the TEA, the Teaching Excellence Program through Pakistan. Many English teachers have been coming to the US to help to understand and kind of witness and get themselves used to this type of learning or this type of teaching, and then essentially bring this back into their classrooms now, in Pakistan or in Saudi Arabia. So firsthand, I actually have been doing quite a bit of teacher training on this type of student-centered approach. And it's not easy because, again, even if the teacher understands and decides to implement this approach, okay, when the Pakistani teacher goes back to his or her classroom in Pakistan, the students might not be ready for this, or the parents might not be ready for this. So it almost becomes a just slowly implementing this type of a change and questioning why, and knowing that it's okay that the teacher does not, even if the teacher has the answer, the teacher doesn't always need to give the answer. The teacher needs to challenge the student to figure out what the answer is, or even to come up with their own answer or their new answer. So you're asking a great question, and this is something that I am very, very passionate about, is the teacher education and helping teachers to incorporate these types of student-centered approaches in their classrooms. This is actually a big reason why I'm studying right now to get my doctorate in international education, in order to have kind of more of an impact and support around the world for teachers who are interested in this type of a student-centered learning approach.
That's amazing, and I love to learn a lot of things from you. Now, I would like to ask another thing, that is about cultural diversity and connecting the people. I like the people who have the cultural diversity. They have a lot of different things, different ideologies, different beliefs, different mindset. How do you connect those people on the same agenda with a single piece? Like, I'm nowadays on the mission of connecting the world, connecting the peace and planet union. So I would love to learn from you.
I absolutely love your mission, Rizwan. I commend you so much for what you're doing and the difference that you're making in the world and bringing people together. So I just wanted to, first of all, congratulate you on that and on your efforts, because it's people like you that will help to connect the world. We need more people like you to do that, because the reality is we all have different cultures, different beliefs, different political systems, different ways of dress, different ideas of the family, different ideas of education. And in my opinion, that's what makes the world a beautiful place. Because if we were all the same, it would get quite boring. Why do people like to travel? People like to travel because they like to get away from the usual. They want to see something different, right? They want to see and experience a different way of life, different food, different language, different sights. So inherently, we actually kind of enjoy having differences between us, even though not everybody might acknowledge it right away. In some ways, to have that diversity is actually what makes the world such a beautiful place. So to answer your question of how do you combine this is why I love what I do, Rizwan. Because every day in my classrooms, I tell my students, I say, we have like a model, we have like a miniature United Nations here. I might have, our classes in the US are in the university are relatively small compared to what you have in Pakistan. Or I just did a training session a couple days ago in Karachi, and there were 92 students on my call.
Oh, wow.
92. It was brilliant. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But that reach is phenomenal. But I'll say in my classrooms, I maybe have 20 students. So to have 20 students from 14 different countries is really, it's like a little United Nations. So what do? We don't focus on what makes us different.
Oh,
we don't. I have students in there from different countries who could even be at war with each other. I have students from different countries who have very, very different political beliefs, religious beliefs, very, very diverse. But in my classroom, we don't focus on that. We focus on the commonality and our common goal. And why are we there? We're all there, no matter what our background is. We're all there because we all have this human desire to improve ourselves. We are all pushing ourselves to come and learn more English for whatever reason. If it's to improve yourself in your job, if it's to get an advanced degree, whatever it might be. And when you start to break it down to what do you have in common? We all have families. Most of my students have children, or they're living with parents. They're all in the middle of COVID. We're all struggling with that. They're all struggling with learning, being in America as an international student with a foreign language. So there's a lot that they have in common. So once we start to emphasize that and what they have in common, all of those differences from whatever country and religion and political structure, it goes away. And we all just become people. They become friends. They know each other. They're trying each other's food. They're hearing about each other's families. They're meeting up for coffee. And they become friends. And in my opinion, it's the best way. They're now, through education, these students are connecting. And in a way, they're creating peace because they're understanding each other as a person and not as a country, or not as a religion, or not as a, political system. So this is what I do. And this is the goal. When I see what you're doing as well, we're on a similar mission. So it's really, really important in my perspective to make sure that we emphasize how we are similar, because we're similar in more ways than we're different. We see that right now through COVID. We are a part of the human race. None of us are immune. It doesn't matter what side of the border you live on, which religion you're practicing, how much money you have, how much you don't have, do you have a job, do you not have a job? It doesn't matter. We are all human, and we're all battling this same COVID together in the same way. So this is a great, great reminder of that connection that we have. We're more similar than we are different. It's important to remember that.
That's amazing, Inga. Inga, now I would like to ask you, as you are the teacher, you have created a classroom with diversity of people, and the people must respect you because you are their teacher. But when I'm gonna conduct the interviews, I have to talk to different people. What do you think? What should be the first step to make people on the same page, to have them for the planet union, to make them connecting the world? What should be the first step?
Well, the first step is, first of all, making them feel comfortable and welcome and heard, not just like they're a number. So in my classroom or here on your interviews, you're very engaging. You're very engaging in the sense that, you care. It's important to, first of all, show your students or the people on your interview that you actually care. You do. It matters who they are as a person. So oftentimes in my classes, even now transitioning to online, I've been able to create kind of a sense of community in my classrooms very early on, even just by students through writing in their journals, through talking about their background, where they come from, talking about their families, talking about, maybe I'll have them all talk about a challenge that they had in the past 6 months or week or something. And once they start to answer these questions and talk about it, they start to see, first of all, they were able to share their story. But also when they start hearing other people's stories, they immediately can relate and they say, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. Wow. I think that way too. Oh my gosh, I don't feel so alone anymore. I'm here in the US as an international student without my family, but now I just created this great connection here in this classroom, and this becomes like I have a safe place. This is my little family, and I can be who I am. So it's important to make everyone feel welcome, accepted, heard, important. If I have a student who's absent, okay, the whole class knows that I missed that student. The whole class changes. When one student is absent, the dynamic and the energy of not having that student makes an impact on the whole class. And my class realizes that. They know how I feel when they're not there. Whatever their energy not being there takes away from the class. So they see that they all have a place and they're all very, very important to the success of that classroom.
Inga, thank you so much. You have given me a plenty of beautiful time from your precious moments. It was really amazing talking to you and a beautiful session we have. I love to connect you again. I would love to learn from you. You have beautiful thoughts and definitely a beautiful human being, a part of a great teacher you are. Thank you so much that you have shared such a beautiful words to me and my audience. All these things matters a lot to me and the people who are listening to you throughout the globe.
Thank you so much to you, Rizwan, and I wish you all the best. I wish you lots of luck in your upcoming election. I believe that you're running for an office, and I wish you lots of success there, and continuing on with your mission to connect communities and promote world peace. So thank you again so much for having me. It was a great, great honor.
Thank you so much, and all the people who are listening, who are commenting, who are watching us. Stay connected, stay believe with each other, and please respect each other wherever you are, at which part of the world, what language you are speaking, what belief you are. Just respect others and love the humanity. Thank you for watching Connecting the World, and keep watching until we have a new guest in the show. Thank you, Igna. It was really nice.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much.
good day.
Thank you.